He was one of the greatest defenders in NBA history. A rebounding machine, a 5-time champion, a Hall of Famer. But behind all his success, there was chaos brewing.
I party on and off the floor, no matter what it is.
He didn't come back on time. Ready to go get his ass out of bed.
A storm of unresolved trauma, fierce rebellion, and a desperate need to be seen.
Oh my goodness, Dennis Rodman!
That Dennis wasn't at practice today?
That's true.
Is that an excuse, Dan?
No, it's not.
Dennis Rodman didn't just break basketball's rules. He broke laws. He kicked a cameraman, headbutted a referee, wore a wedding dress to marry himself, and took a mid-finals vacation to Las Vegas to party with pro wrestlers. And that was before he became the best friend of a brutal North Korean dictator.
But when you leave this confined zone, it's hard. It's hard.
I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but please like and subscribe if you can. I'm a small creator with no team, and each video takes over 20 hours to make, so your support truly makes a difference. Now, let's get back to the video. Born in Trenton, New Jersey, his childhood was a lesson in abandonment and survival. His father, Philander Rodman Jr., left the family when Dennis was just a toddler, eventually fathering dozens of other children across the globe. Dennis was left in a crowded house in the projects of Dallas, raised by his mother, Shirley, alongside his 2 sisters. While his sisters were basketball prodigies, celebrated for their talent, Dennis was small, awkward, and painfully shy. He felt like an outsider in his own home, constantly overshadowed and told he would never amount to anything. After high school, with no prospects and no direction, his mother gave him an ultimatum: get a job or get out. Unable to find his footing, he was kicked out onto the streets. For a time, he was homeless, drifting between friends' couches, a ghost in his own life. He eventually found work as a janitor at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. For months, he spent his nights sweeping floors and cleaning toilets, invisible to the thousands of people who passed through the terminals. He was completely and utterly alone, a nobody with no future. Basketball wasn't a dream, it was a biological accident. In a single year, he experienced a shocking, almost unbelievable growth spurt, shooting up from 5'11" to a towering 6'7". This newfound height gave him an opportunity, a long shot at a local community college. He couldn't shoot well, he couldn't dribble with finesse, but he could run, he could jump, and he could chase down a basketball with a desperation that others couldn't match. Rodman didn't play basketball for fame. He played like it was survival. Every rebound was rent money. Every hustle play was a cry for belonging. His relentless energy got him noticed, and he transferred to a small, obscure NAIA school, Southeastern Oklahoma State University. It was there, in the middle of nowhere, that he honed his craft, becoming a 3-time All-American. He dominated games without ever needing the ball, mastering the art of defense and rebounding with an almost scientific obsession. He studied the angles, the spins, the way the ball came off the rim. He turned a forgotten part of the game into his personal art form. In 1986, the Detroit Pistons drafted him in the 2nd round, a long-shot pick for a long-shot kid. But in Detroit, he found his first true home. He was a perfect fit for the Bad Boys, a team built on grit, toughness, and a shared identity as the league's villains. And more importantly, he found a coach in Chuck Daly who saw past the quiet, awkward exterior and understood the wounded man inside. Daly became the father figure Rodman never had. He didn't just coach Dennis, he talked to him, listened to him, and gave him the structure and belief he had craved his entire life. Under Daly's guidance, Rodman's raw talent was molded into greatness. He became the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year, not once, but twice. He helped lead the Pistons to back-to-back NBA championships in 1989 and 1990. He was the ultimate role player, the selfless warrior who did the dirty work, diving for loose balls, guarding the other team's best player, grabbing every rebound, so that his team could win. For a moment, Rodman was perfect, the underdog who outworked everyone. He had found stability, a family, and a purpose. But when Chuck Daly left the Pistons, that stability disappeared. And so did the version of Dennis that everyone thought they knew. With Chuck Daly gone and the Bad Boys dynasty crumbling around him, the foundation of Dennis Rodman's world fell apart. The structure that had contained his inner turmoil was gone, and he began to spiral into a deep depression. The game, which had once been his salvation, now felt hollow and meaningless. He felt betrayed by the trades that dismantled his team, his family. His behavior grew erratic. The quiet, disciplined worker was being replaced by someone resentful, angry, and lost. The breaking point came one night in 1993. The Pistons had finished another losing season, and Rodman felt more alone than ever. He wrote a note, said goodbye to no one, and drove his pickup truck to the Palace of Auburn Hills, the arena where he had become a champion. He parked in the empty lot, the scene of his greatest triumphs, and sat in the dark with a loaded rifle in his lap. In his autobiography, Bad as I Want to Be, he described that moment with haunting clarity. As he sat there, listening to Pearl Jam on the radio, he had an epiphany. He wasn't going to off himself. Instead, he decided to end the person he had been pretending to be his entire life. The quiet, shy, people-pleasing kid who was desperate for approval. He decided that from that day forward, he would live life entirely on his own terms, without apology, without compromise, no matter how chaotic or strange that life might be. He fell asleep in the truck, and when police found him the next morning, he was a different man. The old Dennis Rodman was dead. When Rodman lost Daly, he lost control. The game that once saved him started to feel meaningless. He had been following orders his entire life, from his mother, from his coaches. Now, he decided to stop following any rules at all. Soon after, the Pistons, unable to manage his increasingly erratic behavior, traded him to the San Antonio Spurs. It was there, in a new city, with a new team, that the world would meet the new Dennis Rodman, a far more colorful and chaotic creation. In San Antonio, Dennis Rodman stopped being an athlete. He became a spectacle. The transformation was immediate, radical, and shocking. The short, conventional haircut he wore in Detroit was gone, replaced by a head of hair dyed platinum blonde, then neon green, then fire engine red, often adorned with painted symbols like a smiley face or an AIDS ribbon. He began covering his body in a sprawling canvas of tattoos and piercings, something that was almost unheard of for an NBA player. In the conservative mid-90s, he was turning his body into a billboard for his rebellion. But the most radical act was his public embrace of androgyny and cross-dressing. He started showing up to games, press conferences, and high-profile events, wearing crop tops, fishnet stockings, feather boas, lipstick, and nail polish. The pinnacle of this performance art came in 1996 to promote his autobiography. He arrived at a book signing in Manhattan in a horse-drawn carriage, wearing a full, elaborate white wedding dress, complete with a veil and blonde wig. He announced to the stunned media that he was bisexual and was marrying himself. This wasn't just a gimmick, it was a deliberate and provocative demolition of the rigid masculine stereotypes that define professional sports. Rodman didn't care about fitting in. He wanted to destroy the mold completely. His life off the court became just as wild. He began a highly publicized relationship with Madonna, at the time the biggest pop star on the planet. Their affair catapulted him from sports fame to global superstardom. He claimed she was intellectually stimulating and encouraged him to embrace his wild side, to be as weird and unpredictable as he wanted to be. The quiet kid from the projects was now a counterculture icon, a regular fixture in gossip columns and on MTV. But this new identity created constant friction in the buttoned-up world of the NBA. In San Antonio, he clashed with his superstar teammate, the devoutly religious David Robinson, who was nicknamed the Admiral. The two were polar opposites. Rodman saw Robinson as a corporate, conformist player. Robinson was bewildered and frustrated by Rodman's antics. He would skip practices to go party, show up late to games, and even take his shoes off on the bench during timeouts. He was acting as if the team's rules and basic professional decorum simply didn't apply to him. The Spurs had acquired one of the best defensive players in the world, but they had also inherited a force of pure chaos they could neither understand nor control. By 1995, most of the league viewed Dennis Rodman as toxic, a generational talent not worth the generational headache. But one team and one coach saw an opportunity. The Chicago Bulls, with Michael Jordan back from his baseball sojourn, were looking for the final piece to reclaim their throne. In a move that shocked the basketball world, they traded for Rodman. It seemed insane on paper. Rodman was the former heart and soul of the bad boy Pistons, the arch nemesis of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Their playoff battles in the late 80s and early 90s were legendary for their brutality and genuine animosity. Now, he was their teammate. But the Bulls had something no other team did: the perfect structure to contain his chaos. They had the Zen master, Coach Phil Jackson, a man who understood that you couldn't tame Rodman, you could only manage his energy. Jackson gave him the freedom to be himself off the court, to dye his hair, to party, to be the spectacle he needed to be, as long as he showed up to play. And on the court, they had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, two of the most focused and demanding leaders in sports history, who made sure that when it was time to win, Rodman was locked in. In Chicago, Rodman finally found the balance: chaos off the court, control on it. And it worked, spectacularly. He was the missing piece of the puzzle for the Bulls' second three-peat, the defensive anchor and rebounding machine that allowed Jordan and Pippen to focus on scoring. They won championships in 1996, 1997, and 1998. Rodman continued his historic run of dominance on the glass, leading the league in rebounding for a staggering 7th consecutive season. On some nights, he would grab over 20 rebounds, single-handedly demoralizing opponents with his relentless, almost manic hustle. But the controversies never stopped. In 1996, during a game against the New Jersey Nets, he was ejected for arguing a call. Enraged, he walked over to referee Ted Bernhardt and headbutted him.
Ted Bernhardt, it looked like he headbutted him.
The act was so shocking, it drew an immediate 6-game suspension and a hefty fine. A year later, during a game in Minnesota, he tripped over a row of courtside photographers. As he lay on the ground, he angrily kicked his leg out, striking cameraman Eugene Amos directly in the groin.
Photographer is hurt.
The incident became a national scandal, resulting in an 11-game suspension, one of the longest in league history at the time, and a significant financial settlement to Amos. Rodman's genius and self-destruction were inseparable. Every time he reached the top, he found a way to fall off it. The most legendary example of this dynamic came during the 1998 NBA Finals. With the Bulls in the middle of a grueling series against the Utah Jazz, Rodman told Phil Jackson he needed a vacation, that he was mentally exhausted. Jackson, in a move only he would make, granted him 48 hours to go to Las Vegas. Rodman flew to Vegas and went on an epic bender, partying with his then-girlfriend Carmen Electra and his friend, pro wrestler Hulk Hogan. When the 48 hours were up, he didn't return. Michael Jordan himself had to fly to Vegas, go to Rodman's hotel room, and physically drag him out of bed to get him back to the team for practice. Most players dream of the finals. Rodman skipped them to hit the strip with pro wrestlers. And somehow, he returned and dominated on the court, as if nothing had happened. When the Chicago Bulls dynasty disbanded after the 1998 championship, with Jordan retiring, Pippen being traded, and Jackson leaving, the last pillar of stability in Dennis Rodman's life was gone. And just as he had after leaving Detroit, he went into a complete freefall. Without the structure of the Bulls, without Phil Jackson's understanding and Michael Jordan's authority, his life became an endless cycle of self-destruction. He had brief, chaotic stints with the Los Angeles Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks, but both ended in disaster. In LA, he clashed with the team's young superstars, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. He showed up late, left early, and was released after just 23 games. In Dallas, his hometown, he was even more disruptive. He publicly criticized the team's owner, Mark Cuban, and was waived after just 12 games. His NBA career was over, not because his talent had faded, but because the league had finally run out of patience. Basketball was replaced by constant partying, heavy drinking, and a string of arrests that blurred together. There were multiple charges for public intoxication. In 2003, and again in 2008, he was arrested on charges of domestic violence. The man who was once celebrated for his on-court intensity was now making headlines for his off-court meltdowns and criminal behavior. He became a fixture on the nascent circuit of celebrity reality television, a genre that seemed tailor-made for his brand of dysfunction. He appeared on shows like Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew, where his struggles with alcoholism were broadcast to the world. He was a contestant on Donald Trump's The Celebrity Apprentice and the UK's Celebrity Big Brother. He was no longer a basketball player. He was a caricature of his former self, a tragic celebrity, famous for being famous, paid to perform his own breakdown for a national audience. Without basketball structure, Rodman's self-destruction had no limit. Fame didn't help. It only gave him a bigger stage to fall apart on. Just when it seemed Dennis Rodman's life couldn't get any more bizarre, it did. In 2013, he embarked on a journey that would redefine his public image from eccentric ex-athlete to a figure of global infamy. He traveled to North Korea, one of the most isolated, impoverished, and oppressive countries in the world, as part of a media project with the Harlem Globetrotters. It was there that he met the country's brutal dictator, Kim Jong-un. The two men, an unlikely and disturbing pair, reportedly bonded over their shared love of basketball, particularly the 1990s Chicago Bulls. This bizarre meeting sparked an even more bizarre friendship. Rodman returned from the trip and began publicly calling Kim a good friend and a cool guy, defending him in interviews and seemingly oblivious to the dictator's horrific record of human rights abuses, including political executions, concentration camps, and starving his own people. The world was outraged and bewildered. The same man who battled Michael Jordan was now sipping cocktails with a tyrant. He returned to North Korea multiple times. He arranged another trip with former NBA players for an exhibition game to celebrate Kim's birthday. His interviews from Pyongyang were often rambling, emotional, and incoherent, including a tearful, drunken appearance on CNN where he screamed at host Chris Cuomo for questioning his motives.
Got 10 guys, all these guys here. Do anyone understand that?
We do, and we appreciate that, and we wish them well with cultural exchange.
No. I'm just saying, no, I don't give a what the, I don't give a rat's ass what the hell you think. I'm saying to you, look at these guys here. Look at them.
He claimed he was trying to engage in basketball diplomacy to bridge the gap between two hostile nations. He styled himself as a peacemaker, the only one who could get through to the North Korean leader. He even claimed credit when President Donald Trump later held a historic summit with Kim Jong-un. Some saw him as a naive messenger, a pawn in a complex geopolitical game he couldn't possibly understand. Others saw him as a man completely detached from reality, his ego and his addictions leading him to the darkest corners of the world, willing to be a propaganda tool for a murderous regime. In the years following his trips to North Korea, Dennis Rodman's life in the United States continued its downward spiral. The legal troubles piled up relentlessly. He was arrested for yet another DUI in Southern California in 2018 after failing a breathalyzer test. There were charges of disorderly conduct, battery, and public intoxication. His finances were in shambles. He was reportedly broke, unable to pay child support for his children. He went through multiple messy and expensive divorces. His battle with alcoholism became a constant public spectacle. In interviews, he openly admitted to drinking 24/7 during his worst years, using alcohol to numb the pain, the boredom, and the absence of the adrenaline that had fueled him for so long.
The reason why I drink is because I'm bored.
You drink because you're bored.
Absolutely. I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it since 1993, you know, because I need to be active. I need to be productive and just try to keep my mind on life in general.
For a man who thrived on chaos, the quiet stillness of post-career life became the one thing he couldn't handle. He checked into rehab multiple times, often at the urging of friends and family, but the cycle of relapse proved brutally difficult to break. At times, in rare moments of clarity, he would appear lucid and deeply reflective, expressing regret for his actions, for the pain he had caused his family, and a desire to get better. At other times, he would seem incoherent and lost, a shadow of the powerful, indomitable athlete he once was. The man who once seemed invincible on the basketball court, who played through pain and exhaustion, was now fighting a losing battle against his own demons, right in front of the world. Who is Dennis Rodman? A misunderstood genius? A self-destructive addict? A trailblazing icon? The truth is, he's all of them. A man who turned childhood pain into rebellion and made it his identity. Long before it was accepted, he challenged every idea of what an athlete or a man should be. He covered himself in tattoos, wore dresses, and forced the sports world to confront difference. He spoke his mind, no matter how outrageous, and refused to apologize for who he was. Rodman won 5 NBA championships, played alongside legends, and redefined his position for a generation. His life has been a war between discipline and destruction, the controlled genius on the court versus the wild force within. In the end, Dennis Rodman's story isn't just about basketball. It's about a man trying to find peace in a world that never made sense to him. He'll always be remembered as one of basketball's most unique players. Brilliant, unpredictable, and unapologetically himself. There will never be another Dennis Rodman.